I loved Charlie Brown's All Stars, not just because of how fun the narrative was, but because of a lovely message as well. And that bit's kind of a spoiler, so I'll save that for towards the end. But this was released in 1966, and to be honest, it feels not as old as that. There are some Charlie Brown cartoons that feel maybe a little bit dated, but this one they could have made this year. It's definitely withstood the test of time, and I think it probably always will. Written, of course, by Charles M. Schulz. And Charlie Brown is playing in a baseball team, and he is the manager of this baseball team, but they're not very good. And all of the children kind of blame Charlie Brown for that, but when you watch it, you realise that actually none of them are very good at all. And they keep calling him a blockhead and putting him down. And they decide that, if it's going to continue like this and they keep losing, they're going to just quit the team. But Charlie Brown realises that there might be something he can do to get them to stay on, because he doesn't want to let his team down. He doesn't want to be a blockhead. Will it work? I thought it was lovely. I am a fan of baseball. I'm not that knowledgeable about baseball, as I've mentioned before, but I do enjoy it as a concept. So the narrative for me was really interesting. I thought the dialogue with the characters was pretty spot on. I loved how they were all blaming him. I mean, that sounds horrible saying I loved how they were blaming him, but I loved the level of irony with them all blaming him and calling him a blockhead for, yet again they've lost another game. But when you look at them, none of them are very good at all. And what happens towards the end, I thought was beautiful, and I'll discuss that in a moment with a spoiler warning. I just feel the whole thing is really well rounded, very well written, beautifully presented, obviously gorgeously animated, funny, quirky, the usual quality we get from Charlie Brown. I really thoroughly enjoyed it. If you're a fan of Charlie Brown and you haven't seen this, definitely worth a watch. Okay, so spoiler from now, I'm about to discuss what might have happened. Charlie Brown had the opportunity for his team to be sponsored to play in a real Little League, and they're going to get uniforms, and this may be an opportunity for him to persuade everybody else to come back on the team, because who doesn't want uniforms? And things seem to be going okay. It doesn't mean they're better players, but nevertheless, they're willing to come back for the uniforms. But at the 11th hour, it turns out that girls and, dogs, in this case Snoopy, are not allowed to play on the team. And the sponsor says you have to get rid of the girls and the dog, but then I'll give you your uniforms, get some other players, some boy players, and you can play in the Little League. And Charlie Brown broke my heart by saying no. And that these are his friends, they're playing as a team or not at all. And I think it was kind of a lovely moment where, to start with, Charlie Brown doesn't even say that that's why. He just tells everybody we can't get the uniforms, and they start calling him names again and quitting the team again. But never does he defend himself by saying we're not getting the uniforms because. It takes somebody else to say, the reason you're not getting the uniforms is because Charlie Brown is so loyal to you. And it's so emotional and so beautiful, and it just melted my heart, and I absolutely loved it. I don't think this is as funny as some other Charlie Browns, but I think for me it's the most emotional and the most raw and the best character display of character for Charlie Brown. If you haven't seen it, I thoroughly recommend Charlie Brown's All Stars.